Hi, this is JC, and today I'm going to show you how to build a sidecar. Before me, I have the entire sidecar pack out, including the optional tray and shelf, which I will be putting together. If you want to enjoy life when you're making this, I highly suggest that you have a drill. And also with the drill, make sure that your clutch is light at first, and then you build up, because if you over drill the screws in, you'll probably dent the wood or strip the screw. We designed this entire thing to be modular, so you can decide where you want shelves, where you want trays, where you want to actually put your rack ears. This is when you're going to figure this out. We also designed this so you can have the storage and the door on the right or left, depending on how it's oriented next to your workspace. On this one, I'm going to put the door on this side. So when I'm planning how to build this, and I've decided that I'm going to put the door over here, I know that this piece, which is the divider, is going to be basically like this. So everything that I put on this is going to have to correspond with this. And everything I put on this, I'm gonna have to correspond with this. Fortunately, we were smart and all the holes line up. So basically you just need to know how to count. You'll notice on this piece for the hinge plates, we have these two little holes, and that's going to be basically the holes you're going to put the hinge plates in. So to put in the hinge plates, I'm going to use the K screw. Yay, hinges. Now I'm going to put in the shelf pins, because this side is going to have the cable hanger in it, and the shelf pins are these guys. And if you're wondering what these random 3 holes are, those holes are actually to keep the cable hanger from tipping out when it's extended. Now, the shelf pins are actually really tight when you first put them in. You might have to slightly tap them in with a hammer, and the first time you pull them out, you're probably gonna need pliers. So you probably wanna get this one right the first time. So count these holes from the top, this being the top, because from the bottom, this angle, it can really start to mess with your head if you're trying to align things with the bottom. So I'm going to count down from the top, 1, 2, 3, 4. The reason why that's important is I need to do 1, 2, 3, 4 over here, but also 1, 2, 3, 4 over here. So the stabilization pin that I explained, I'm not going to put that in now because it'll make the shelf basically impossible to get in once it's assembled. So we have the pins in the side, and I'm going to put the pins in the middle. And I'm just going to double check to make sure it's oriented correctly. Realize that the bottom is at an odd angle. Yep, so this will be the way that this piece is oriented. And the top is where you have the 2 holes for the screw pizzas, which we will put in later. So I'll just set this like this, because I know it corresponds with that one, and just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Pins are in. Now I'm gonna do this side to match this side. This is where the real fun begins. I think I'm going to use these 2 holes from the top because it'll accommodate a taller drum machine. And I'm just going to start to kind of lay it out. Now these holes correspond with shelf and tray, and these holes correspond with the rack ears. So I'm going to do 6 U's of rack. So I know that that's going to be basically here. And then at the very bottom, I'm going to use these 2 holes for a tray. Now this is when it starts to kind of mess with your head, and realize that we're trying to be parallel with the top. The bottom of the whole cabinet kind of goes down because it gives you room back here to put cables and stuff. So to separate the tray, you can either do it like a lightsaber, or make sure there's no kids right there, or you can do it like a human adult. Let's just pull it apart and just push down on the tab, and you can separate. This piece goes with the side of the tray. This piece goes on the actual sidecar. Remember, long side is the back, short side is the front. When you're putting these in, this bumper is the back of the slide, so it goes towards the back of the cabinet. If you ever have a hard time putting these back together, it's because these are detinted, so when you're playing a drum machine, it doesn't slide away from you. But to get it back, all you have to do is line that up, and it'll close really easily. Okay, so I'm going to use the K screw to attach the slides. And you also will probably need to move the slide around a bit to access the holes, the back of the plate. So this hole will line up there. This hole will line up there. If the holes aren't lined up correctly, it's probably because you don't have it in the right place, because the holes and the math work. Because we're smart and have computers. Anyway, back to the K screw. And I'm going to use the C screw to put in the rack ears. One tip on the rack ears is if you're gonna rack the entire cabinet, make sure you install the rack ears from the bottom up. If you kind of put them in willy-nilly, they might not fit because the rack ear tolerances and the holes are very, very small, which is a good thing, but it means you have to go from the bottom up. Okay, so I'm gonna put in the shelf pins. Remember, this is the top, this is the bottom. You want everything to be parallel with the top, so don't let this mess with your head. Now I'm going to do everything that I did here, parallel to here, because when we put it together, it'll all work. So, one, two, 1, 2. So you might be confused right now with this cluster of holes. That's because these 2 holes are for the hinge plates if you decided to flip this and put the door on this side. So if you want to make sure that you're using the right holes, you'll know because the slide will tell you, because if you're not, the holes will not line up. So this hole works there, that hole works there. I know I'm using the right holes. C-screws. Okay, the next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put the screw pizzas into the divider. If you built a platform, you probably very fondly remember these. And remember, when I put these in, I have pins on the other side, so I just need to be kind of careful about it. Line it up, and after that, I'm gonna put the feet on the 2 sides of the cabinets. Okay, these are ready to be put together. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up the screw pizzas. And once again, being very careful with this, because remember, I still have pins sticking out of the other side. Very carefully, just kind of set this here. And I'm going to grab the bottom. The bottom only has these 3 holes, and the top of the bottom has these 2 holes. So I'm actually gonna orient it like this. And because my door is going to go over here, I'm gonna put the dowels in these 2 holes, and this will line up the divider when I put the whole cabinet together. For that, I'm gonna use the conformats. So I'll take the side of the cabinet, kind of put it like this. I will put the conformats through because it kind of gives me some guide holes. And this is the bottom of the bottom. This is the back of the bottom. And just kind of line things up just to kind of get me started. Don't tighten anything yet until everything's kind of together, and that'll be the last step to basically tighten everything to lock it down. So now that I have the 2 sides on, I'm going to put in the divider and line the holes up with the dowels. And at this point, you probably will need some assistance. Scott! You're not Scott.
Oh no.
Okay. I am going to now drop this in, which is reversible. The top goes on here. Thank you, not Scott. I can take it from here.
Thank you.
And I'm now going to tighten up the rest of it. Now the cabinet is together. I'm going to switch back to my Phillips bit, and I'm going to tip this over and put in the screws for the divider, which will go right here, here, and here. I'm going to use the eye screw, which will lock that into place. I'm now going to use more eye screws and put in this guy, which will go right here. We can tip this bad boy back over. And the cabinet is basically done, except for one thing, is I need to close the screw pizzas. So I'm just very gently tapping in the screw pizza. Choke up on the hammer. None of this. It's one of these. Gently. So here's the shelf that will actually go into the cabinet. These holes, the reason why they're offset is you have to clear the door. So if it's gonna hang there like this, you know that the holes are over here. So this is the way that we want it oriented when we attach that. We're gonna put the back of it, remember nub is the back, this way. So we know that when it's flipped, it's gonna be slightly offset to this side to clear the door. So we are going to use the K-screw again and attach it. And the back of this is actually gonna slightly stick off the shelf. You want it flush on the front or else the door will not close. Unlike the other slide, the holes you're gonna wanna use are basically this hole and this hole. Now we're gonna finish building this mechanism using the other half of the slide to tie this all together using the E-screws. And how this works is you put these together and then you lock it all in place with the top of the slide. And this little angle is the back, and this is the back of the slide. Line this up. So this oval hole is at the front. Because we do occasionally change milling processes just because we continually improve the product, these holes might not be exactly the same as what I'm showing you here, but just make sure that the guide holes that we have line up so that the front of the slide aligns with the front of the hanger. And be very careful with these because this is a pretty easy operation to strip screws. And now I'm going to put this in the slide. Set this in here. Voila. And you'll see, remember those 3 holes that I talked about at the beginning? One of them is right here. So I'm gonna put the shelf pin in that hole. So if I have weight on the end of this, it won't tip forward. Voila. So now I'm gonna put the door on. So I'm gonna grab 4 K-screws. One thing that I like doing is basically closing the hinges, lining them up, then basically just pushing them in and opening it up, and you can just kind of push those in. And because we don't like things that go slam, I'm going to put the bumpers on. So the bumpers are just a little sticker. Just put them on, whoop, and there, and then it will make that sound a lot better. So I'm gonna grab the tray. You can tell it's the tray because it'll be a little bit narrower to accommodate the slides. Have a front angle and holes for the slides. We use the E-screw again. So this is the front, there's your angle. I'm gonna use the oval hole this way and the oval hole back here that's perpendicular. The back of it is gonna stick out a bit, but that's all fine and dandy. Other side. Okie dokie. Pull both of these out to put the tray in, and I'm gonna use my thumb and finger to kind of squeeze it so it doesn't kind of fly apart on me as I put this in. Then it locks, and then the first couple ones you have to give it a couple little, and we're good. Last step is to put the shelf in. Voila! We have built Sidecar. Be creative.